for that for 17 alpha hydroxylase deficiency is going to be hypertension, right? It's going to be hypokalemia. It's going to be hypernatremia. It's going to be volume overload because aldosterone, it leads to the reabsorption of sodium and the excretion of potassium as well as hydrogen ions. So that's your big difference there. You're not necessarily going to have, that's really the key point. You're not going to really have sexual characteristic defects. In first aid it says hermaphroditism, so like unidentifiable sex. Anyway, we'll stop there. So 17 alpha hydroxylase, hypertension, too much aldosterone. The next enzyme she talked about was 21 hydroxylase. Okay, so if you move down those pathways, you have both the glomerulosa as well as the fasciculata utilizing this enzyme. And this is an enzyme early on in their synthesis of aldosterone and cortisol. The reticularis for androgens does not have 21 hydroxylase. So if you have a 21 hydroxylase deficiency, which is the most common, by the way, this is the most common deficiency, you are going to be shunting all of that precursor steroid to the reticularis. It's going to be being utilized majority in the reticularis. So you're going to have more downstream testosterone being produced. You're going to have more sex hormones. So you're going to have hypotension. You're going to have low aldosterone. You're going to have low cortisol, but you're going to have high androgens. And at the same time, you're going to have high renin because of the low aldosterone, and you're going to have high ACTH because of the low cholesterol. In fact, for all of these, you're going to have low cholesterol. So that's a constant. So you're going to have elevated ACTH regardless. Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess you can't correct me, but say it out loud. Anyway, pretty much going over that. So you're going to have hypotension, hyperkalemia. Those are your aldosterone side effects. And then because of the increased androgens, you're going to have masculinization. So of women, you're going to have masculinization. You're going to have hirsutism. And then in males, you might have early onset puberty. Okay, done with that. 11 beta hydroxylase. This is further down the synthesis in both the glomerulosa as well as the fasciculata. In the glomerulosa, you're producing aldosterone. In the fasciculata, you're producing cortisol. You'd think, in this case, 11 hydroxylase, that you'd have a deficiency in aldosterone, and you do. However, you're not going to have the expected hypotension. You're going to have hypertension like you would in the 17 alpha hydroxylase deficiency because the upstream substrate for aldosterone is 11-DOC or 11-deoxycorticosterone, and it is similar enough to aldosterone to be having the same effects. You're going to have similar effects. You're going to be having hypertension. The difference is from 17 alpha hydroxylase deficiency, where you both have hypertension. In this one, you're going to be shunting still to the reticularis. So you're going to be having masculinization. So yeah, so those are the main differences. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify those. Hope that didn't take too long. But so we have 17 alpha hydroxylase, hypertension. Okay, that's the big thing there, because that's all you're producing. 21 hydroxylase, you're going to be having sexual masculinization, hypotension. 11 beta hydroxylase, hypertension, and the sexual masculinization. So there's your differences. Done with that. Okay, now we're going to move on to the hypofunction disorders found in the adrenals. First, we'll talk about lab testing because it's important. She talked about it. You have two different types of tests. You have stimulation tests and suppression tests. Tracy's looking at me right now. It's really awkward. Anyway, so stimulation tests, you're using these in deficiency states. You're trying to see if you can stimulate hormones that are deficient to become present. Whereas suppression tests, these are used in excess states to see if by introducing more, like for instance, dexamethasone suppression tests, if you're introducing more glucocorticoid, can you suppress the downstream production, right? So you're trying to suppress. So those are the differences. I don't know if I explained